At the first checkpoint of the season, there's not a lot that we know about the Cincinnati Reds, but we know a couple of things, like about the starting pitching and how good it is.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in to Locked On Reds. Locked On Reds is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Stephen Offenbaker. His name's Jeff Carr. We have been talking about the Cincinnati Reds in podcast form for a combined 14 seasons. We love talking about the Reds. We love talking about baseball, and we love talking about those things with you. We're glad to have you here for today's show. We're going to be digging in a little bit. We reached Memorial Day. We've been saying that's the first real spot in the season to check in and see who they are. Well, it's time to do that. And we do know some things. We do know a few things they need to do next in order to be good and compete. We do know some things about this lineup. We're going to tell you about those coming up here in just a few minutes. And where we are going to start is with the starting pitching, because what we know is of all the phases of the game, the Reds have that right now. The starting pitching is very, very good, Jeff, and that is where we will begin, because you look around at this team, the bullpen as of late, the lineup, very inconsistent. But these starting pitchers, Hunter Greene, Lodolo's been decent. Abbott's been decent. Singer's been decent. Martinez, we watched him yesterday be very, very decent in his start against the Royals. The starting rotation, they're fun.
Yeah, I think that Brady Singer is really the only guy that's close to a guy that I worry about in this starting rotation, but that's just been here recently. I mean, his start to the season was fantastic, so we know he can do that. He's probably just had a little bit of a lull. We'll see him hopefully get back to that here tonight. But yeah, I mean everybody else has been very, very good. Nick Lodolo's last start was a little bit inefficient, but I think that overall you have been very happy with everything that you've seen from Nick Lodolo this season. And Nick Martinez has really settled into a groove. Another amazing start with no walks whatsoever. Dude keeps the ball in the strike zone, keeps the efficiency rolling. I think he had 66 pitches through like the first 6 innings of the game. Like, absolutely fantastic to see. He's the kind of guy that can take pressure off of a bullpen that, we'll get into that in just a minute, quite frankly, has just been beaten to death over the last couple of days. I mean, the Chicago Cubs series really opened our eyes about this bullpen, and we'll get into that. But this starting rotation, Steve, if you look at wins above replacement, at least according to Fangraphs, they are number 4 in all of Major League Baseball right now. The starting rotation is that pretty good.
That's better than pretty good. I will take that. That's the starting rotation of a playoff team. And I know, everybody settle down. I know we're going to get into all those things, right. But you look at these starters, and you know, the guy that I'm really kind of excited about how he's done, and we don't spend near enough time talking about him, is Andrew Abbott. You yes. Look at this starting rotation, and it's very easy to do what I did there just a minute ago. Like Hunter Greene pitching like an ace, doing things. On the season, Hunter Greene has a 1.9 wins above replacement, to your point of them being number 4. Do you know who's number 2 on the team? That's Andrew Abbott with 1.8. He's only 0.1 from being equal to Hunter Greene right now. And we don't spend near enough time talking about that. Andrew Abbott has gone out start after start after start and just been really, really good. He has, in fact, started 8 games now. He has a 1.77 ERA for those that still follow that particular stat. He's gone 40 and 2/3 inning. Strikeout per 9, Jeff, 10. Walk rate still a little high at 3.8 per 9. He'll get better as he gets that down. He's looked great.
Just for fun, and I know I would like the answer to be both, but let's say for a moment you can only extend either Nick Lodolo or Andrew Abbott. Who you sign into a long-term extension?
You know, when Lodolo is on, he is great, but he's been injured. He's been inconsistent. There's question marks there. If I can only sign one of those two guys, I may give that extension to Andrew Abbott.
I think I'm kind of with you. Like I hope it's both. I hope they sign them both long-term, but I like what Andrew Abbott has really put together. I feel like his ceiling is not as high as Nick Lodolo, but I don't think his floor is as low because I also think that he's much better at taking care of himself, knock on wood. But yeah, this starting rotation has been the reason to continue to believe that they will reach their ultimate goal. And quite frankly, Steve, on the other side of this coin is the bullpen. That if you'd had asked me this about a week ago, I'd say, yeah, no, the bullpen's fine. But this last week has been harrowing for this bullpen. I mean, the Reds just beat the Royals 7-3 or 7-4, and I was sweating bullets there at the end. Like, I don't know who I trust out of this bullpen right now.
It's very difficult to say that there's really anybody you can just rely on 100% out of this bullpen right now. Pagan looked bad again. He had struggles, and I know the weather, but everybody was pitching in the same weather, and I know that he had problems with the mound, and that balk happened because the mound was clumping on his shoes and all the things that happened. But he has not looked good now in his last few appearances. And you look at his numbers on the year, and you have to start asking yourself, is somebody going to come along and take this closer job away from him? Because Santillan, maybe 2.77 ERA right now.
Possibly.
He's looked good at times. Luis May somewhere down the road. I don't think he's ready for that right now. Graham Ashcraft, when he started off looking really great, but he's had some rough outings as of late. I'm not sure what you do with the back end of that bullpen, because the A group, that group that we wanted to say, we're going to rely on these guys. This is the A group. This is what you do. They've been a letdown, at least for the last week to 2 weeks.
They've been a letdown. I know that, like, in Graham Ashcraft's blow-ups this season, he's been the victim of bad luck. But at the end of the day, you got to get the result, and the relief pitchers aren't getting the result. Where I praised the Reds starting rotation for being number 4 in WAR in Major League Baseball, the Reds bullpen, Steve, is 21st in Major League Baseball in WAR. That's the thing where I believe that there's a lot of folks that have certain feelings about using WAR in a team cumulative setting. But when it comes to this bullpen, the only guy that has more than 0.1 WAR is Graham Ashcraft, and he has, as we've said, struggled here recently. So where you look to, where you turn to, I mean, Taylor Rogers, I get it. You're going to throw his ERA in my face. Everything else about Taylor Rogers has been a disappointment so far this season. I will stand by that. I'm hoping he can turn me around on that one. Tony Santillan, Steve, and this kind of worries me a little bit. His strikeouts per 9 are 6.5. I need more from a guy that I thought would lead this team in saves. I don't necessarily know if he's ready to take over that mantle from Emilio Pagan right now. And Emilio Pagan, while he really, shot out of the gate very well, has slowed down quite a bit so far here recently, and he still sports a very worrying 28% ground ball rate in the absolute worst stadium to allow a fly ball in Major League Baseball.
And I keep looking through the group who we could replace. You look at Luis May's splits. I mean, 10.5 strikeouts per 9, great, but I think it could derail him. His walk rate per 9 right now is 3.8. I just the temptation is there. That 100-mile-an-hour freaking sinker is tempting, but I really would hate to see them put that extra pressure on him right now and possibly derail what he's trying to do. So I don't think there's a clear answer on this. If we're going to take the guy that's best right now at not walking people and hope for the best, your guy Santillan is probably the choice, I think. But you're right. If they're going to do that, we do need more from him. We need more strikeouts from him.
If we go that route, it's Brent Suter. Brent Suter's a very unsung hero in this bullpen. He is not a guy that is like the best pitcher in this bullpen. I wouldn't make that argument, but he has bailed them out of countless situations. I think it's tough to say who the closer is right now. I think what we're saying is the best pitcher in this bullpen is TBD, and that's been the most annoying thing about this group. But that's kind of the thing with this team, though, Steve. Like we know what we know about them, and what we know about them is they're not bad. But they're also not good either. And I think one of the biggest reasons that we can say that is the lineup. We'll tell you why coming up next. And Steve, if you could believe it, right now, with where the Reds are, FanDuel actually has the Reds at 20-1 odds to win the division. I mean,
they're doing what we said they should do. If you're a believer, and Jeff and I are believers, it might be worth going over to FanDuel right now and putting a little money on the Reds to win this division. And right now, FanDuel's got if your first $5 bet wins for new customers, you're going to get $200 in bonus bets back. I would jump in there today, right now, and put some money on Tyler Stevenson having a hit in today's game, because that would be the first way to get your $200 in bonus bets. And then you can throw some of that at the Reds winning this division at 20-1 odds.
Which actually isn't even as good of odds as, your first $5 bet winning and you get 200 in bonus bets. Like, you'd get $100 off of a $5 bet here. But yeah, maybe go sprinkle a little on the Reds to win that division. That's over at FanDuel. They're America's #1 sports book. Thanks for making Locked On Reds your first listen every single day. If you are not an everydayer, you could become one by hitting that subscribe button right here on YouTube or on your favorite podcasting app. We've got all the content for you about these Cincinnati Reds, come rain or shine, when it comes to how well or not this team is playing, and that includes Tim Daniel over on the Reds Postcast at the end of every single Reds game. Check it out right here on the Locked On Reds YouTube page, and then shortly thereafter on your audio feed after the live show ends. All right, Steve, we talked about the pitching. The pitching, especially the starting pitching, is what leads this team. And while we are in the stretch of some good run scoring by this lineup, I think that the stretch of good run scoring just shows how much of a mess this lineup really is. They need a leader. They need a consistent guy to get behind. And I don't know that they have that yet. They have some options. They have some arguments, but I'd be hard pressed to say that Austin Hayes is the best guy in this lineup. Be hard pressed to say that Elly De La Cruz is the best guy in this lineup. I'd be hard pressed to say that what Fangraphs is saying, that TJ Friedel is the best guy in this lineup.
Well, looking at this lineup, statistically, if we want to just talk wins above replacement, Austin Hayes is the best guy in this lineup. He's, of the position players, he leads the team in WAR at 1.2. Also tied with Jose Trevino. And if someone can show me that they had either of those guys on your card ahead of Elly De La Cruz, I would love for someone to have predicted that. But
I do. I think that Elly started his ascent on Saturday, but right. I mean, our point from last week still stands. Like, we're still looking for him to step up and be that guy on a daily basis.
Yeah, and time is running out. He needs to turn a corner. And I hope you're right. I hope we're going to see him going. And look, he's been perfectly okay. He's been fine. But they need more
take over a game, though, until he did, like, on Saturday. Like, he took over the game on Saturday. We haven't seen him do that a lot this year.
Yesterday he has a hit, he gets a walk, and that's a 2-time on base, scored a run. That's a good day. And
it's a fine day.
But we need more. We need him to take over a game. We need him to be disruptive. We need him to go out there and create a little bit of chaos and help keep things moving and help to get to the bullpen sooner for the opposing team. The things that he was really good at and excelled at last year. Still waiting for that next elevation, that next move.
Right. And I think that's the interesting part too. Like, I mean, we can get into the Tyler Stevenson of it all, which he actually had a really good game to begin the Kansas City series. Maybe he's finally starting to get into it where he, was a month behind everybody else. And maybe he's finally starting to hit that groove. We can get into the Matt McClains of it all, and God help us when we do. But when it comes to like the big picture of this team, Steve, something they did a lot last year, they don't do it that much this year, and that's run. And when they do run, they're actually less successful than they were last year. I saw, some folks talking about that statistically. They're actually getting less successful steal attempts on a percentage basis this year than they did last year. So as much as we talked about, Terry Francona getting in here and the Reds were going to run the bases smartly, I think we've seen less and less toot lands over the last couple of weeks, but we're still not seeing them put the pressure on the opposing pitcher with the stolen base.
Yeah, and you look around, and for the reasons that we've been disappointed with Elly De La Cruz not elevating to the next level, we do have to talk about the Matt McClain of it all, because we were counting on him to be another engine in this lineup, to be another guy that could drive things so that the pressure wasn't all on Elly. And Matt has been bad. He's been not good. You look at his numbers right now, Jeff, 184, 287, 319. If you want to look at wins above replacement, exactly 0. So 0. And OPS plus, just to confirm that, is at 65. So he is 35% below league average right now with the way that he's playing. Now that's offensively. He's been great defensively. He's
it's the only reason his
second base
not negative is because the glove is so good.
But he as much as Ellie De La Cruz needs to get it going, Matt McLain really needs to figure things out and get it going.
Yeah, because I think that if you were to tell me, if you look me in the eye right now and you said, well, how on earth could you think that Matt McLain would be this good? I'd be like, how would you not? Like, I mean, he's expected to be the second best player on this team. And I think I ineloquently put that there. But the whole point being, like, coming into this season, he's healthy, he's ready to go. We were expecting bigger and better things from him. And ergo, that, like, you know, infecting the rest of the lineup, bigger and better things. But as he has not gone, that's how the lineup has seemingly not gone. Like, he has not been a factor, and that's why he's batting like 9th right now, is that Terry Francona's like, we can't take your glove off the field, dude, but by golly, we need to get you going, because right now we cannot give you we cannot consider the fact that you should get more at bats than just about anybody else in the lineup. And Garrett Hampson notwithstanding, absolutely get more at bats than him. Why on earth the Reds signed him, I don't know. You and I almost did an emergency. I'm just kidding. We did not, because that was a weird move. But Matt McLain's got to get going. And where we were talking about, just about 3 weeks ago, that it seemed like all numbers were pointing to a breakout for him, those numbers are not as obvious now. And that is what worries me the most, is that we are not talking about, yes, obviously he needs to get going. He's 40 points lower than league average on BABIP, but that's not that low. I mean, he's still going to see that jump up a bit, but that's not going to bring a 184 batting average to 280. Like, I just don't see how he's going to have to bridge the gap here without us talking about expected statistics.
I think, we're using this segment to talk about what we know right now as we've crossed through Memorial Day. And when you look at this lineup, you're right. There is a mess. I do want to briefly hit on one positive, and that's been the production from the catcher position since opening day.
Yes.
This group of catchers has delivered. Jose Trevino continues to deliver. Austin Wynn continues to deliver in his limited opportunities. And Tyler Stevenson finally looks like he's turning it on. You remember when he came up, he was a month behind everybody else and really didn't get very much of a rehab timing, get his stuff down. We got to watch him have spring training in the regular season is what we got to watch. And he finally looks like he's going to be turning it on a little bit as well. 38 home runs to go. In case you missed it, he hit his second dinger in Kansas City, an absolute no doubter. So of all the crazy what ifs, what's happening, I don't know what's going on. I've been really pleased with the catcher play since the beginning of the season.
Yeah, and I do kind of wonder a little bit, is Jose Trevino going to continue this? Like, defensively, I have no question about that. But at the plate, it just doesn't seem like he's slowing down. I don't think that he's going to hit 298 by the end of the season, but I mean, are we really thinking he's going to fall off a cliff and hit less than 250 at this point? We might be talking about a pretty good season for Jose Trevino, and that contract extension is looking pretty smart before the season. It's a good
thing. It's a good thing they got that done, because given the production that he's been putting up, it would not have happened now if they came to a midseason.
Are we saying that the Reds front office they did something smart, Steve? What?
Even a broke clock is right twice a day, Jeff.
I know this though, Steve. The lineup is a mess. We need to see a consistent leader step up, Ellie De La Cruz, and we need to see Matt McLain be Matt McLain.
100%. All right. The Reds need to do some things, Jeffrey. They need to take some action in order to remain relevant and in order to have a potential postseason appearance. We're going to talk about that coming up next. If you can't watch us here on YouTube, make sure you're listening to us in the audio feeds. We're seriously on just about every podcasting app that's out there. If we're not on one you need us to be on, let Jeff know. He can make it happen for you. Take us on the road with you. Take us to the gym. You can listen to us if you can't watch us, and you need to watch us and listen to us. Do that. All right, Jeff, let's get into what the Reds can do to remain relevant, what the Reds can do to be in a position of being a buyer when the trade deadline rolls around, what they can do to possibly go on a postseason run. We look around, we know the lineup needs to get consistent. We know the bullpen needs to be figured out, but are there steps the Reds can take and they can take right now to make that happen? I think there are. You and I were talking in show prep that the Reds are actually doing what we said they needed to do during this stretch of baseball, during this stretch of the schedule being pretty brutal. They're just doing it in a way that's probably the most infuriating way that they could do it, losing series to the White Sox and sweeping the Guardians as an example, right? So you look at this team, what can they do to remain relevant? Well, step one, continue to play at least at 500 until 7 games before the All-Star break. That's what we were asking of them. That's what we said needed to happen. That's what they have to do. And then they need to go out on those last 7 games before the All-Star break and win 5 of 7, and then they go into the break above 500. Right now, they're 1 game below 500. They're 4 games out of the wild card, and they're 6.5 back in the Central. None of those numbers are insurmountable. They can do that. I think they need to go get themselves a power hitter. And I think they need to go get themselves a Group A bullpen arm. Those 2 upgrades need to happen between now and the trade deadline.
Let me ask you this, because I came to this conclusion when I did a solo show at the end of last week, and I'm curious as to your thoughts about it, because I think it's obvious that the thing that they need to go get, and it's not obvious as to how they're going to get it, because this player does not exist on a team that is obviously selling at the moment. But they needed a veteran guy in the middle of the order as a run producer to take the pressure off of Spencer Steer, to take the pressure off of Tyler Stevenson, and just take the pressure off the rest of the lineup, right? Like that guy in the middle of the order. And I don't know that Austin Hayes is that guy. Do you think they missed on not getting Paul Goldschmidt? Because I now kind of think that they do.
It would be a different lineup for sure if he was in it, right? It would be a much different lineup. But I think Austin Hayes can be that guy. He could be the droid you're looking for, Jeff. It's just a question of if he can continue the production that he's had. Right now, he's kind of playing that part. And I would just like to see them add another power threat somewhere. It doesn't need to be the number 4 hitter type of power, 30, 40 home runs, although that would be great. But it also can't be, well, we're going to wait and hope that CES is that guy when he comes back. They can't do that either, right? They have to go out.
I did see that he's supposed to come back later this week, but yeah,
I'm with you. Yeah, he started some rehab assignments out in Arizona already. So if they go and get somebody,
Louisville now too.
Yeah. So for me, they do need to go get a power hitter. They do need to get a guy that's got some, long ball threat, and they really need to address this bullpen though, because if you look at their losses and this Chicago series, Jeff, oh my goodness, just the amount of meltdowns in this Chicago series.
Sick. Absolutely sick watching those games.
Clear to me that as the guy that has jumped up and down and bashed on the table for a power hitting outfielder, hear me now when I say, get me an arm first. Go get somebody in the back of this bullpen that can protect a dadgum lead. Because I have never been more frustrated than this weekend having to listen to the Cubs fans. Like, let's not have a repeat of that at all this season. Go get an arm.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that there's so many different statistics that talk about what the Reds are, and I think they're going to win some comeback games eventually here, Steve. Like they're still over whenever they're trailing after 6 or 7 innings. Doesn't matter which one. I think they're 0-21 after 6 and 0-23 after 7, something like that. But I'm with you on the bullpen. Like they need that guy, and I feel like there's a guy in Los Angeles. Like they could go get Kenley Jansen. I think Kenley Jansen would be a great option in the back end of this bullpen. Then you move everybody up one. Emilio Pagan can go back to being a setup guy, which I think is probably his best role. Graham Ashcraft can go back to being the fireman dude whenever you need him. And then Kenley Jansen is your 9th inning guy. And that just seems to be the one issue, right? Like it feels like this bullpen would just fit in to what we want it to be if there was a guy who had no problems pitching in the ninth inning, because everybody seems, and no matter what, as much as we who love to sit here and watch the game will sit here and tell you, well, there's no difference than pitching in the fifth or the sixth or the ninth, whatever. There is. Like, relief pitchers will tell you to your face 100 times out of 100, the ninth inning is just different. Cowboy has never said anything different on the broadcast. He always says that. And so I believe that that is the case. Like, whether we want to believe it or not, for a player in the game on the mound, it is. So you need that guy that is okay with that mentality. I'm with you, Steve. I think there's a lot of people that are believing like, oh, they need a big dramatic move. I think I see a world where they just get that guy, they get a Kenley Jansen, and then maybe they go get like a Jesus Sanchez who can hit the ball a country mile when you need him to. And I think that's going to work. Yeah, maybe I'm doing the thing, right? Maybe I'm doing the thing like I did in February where I said it's obvious that this team is a division contender. And now we're sitting here looking up at the Cubs like, are they going to make up that gap? But I feel like that can happen.
They can't. I mean, look, if you've got their stats up in front of you, I don't have my thing loaded, but what's they scoring? What's the average scoring per game right now? How many runs are they scoring? Because looking at that, it feels like the offensive production has gotten better. It feels like the offensive production has gotten more consistent. Shutouts after big scoring games notwithstanding. I feel like their average run scored per game has them in a place that if you could reliably count on your bullpen, there's not a lot of upgrades still that you need to go, because I don't think for a minute that Matt McLain's going to continue to be 40% below league average. I don't think for a minute that Ellie De La Cruz is going to just be a regular singles hitter in this lineup.
This is going to be the most annoying stat in the world. Like, we talk about all the different records, and I'm sure that, you know, I'm sure if you're an avid Reds fan like we are, you've heard them. You've seen them on Twitter. You've heard them on the radio. You've heard people mention their records in such and such games. Here's the most annoying stat in the world, Steve, when it comes to the Cincinnati Reds. This season, the Cincinnati Reds average 4.6 runs per game. They average allowing 4.1 runs per game, and they're under 500.
And that's why I am now saying, go get me a bullpen arm, please. Go get me
Close
a
it out, baby. Close it out. And just give me a bullpen arm. And I don't think Jesus Sanchez would like destroy. And you get Sanchez, you get Cedric Mullins. There's a couple of different guys that I don't necessarily think you would need to just absolutely break the bank to go get. Mm-hmm. And you would solidify this outfield in a way that it hasn't been. Garrett Hampson ain't doing it. Connor Joe ain't doing it. Go get somebody legitimate. And that's what the Reds need to do. That's what Nick Krall needs to do. Hopefully he's on the phone doing that right now. But that is where we will end today's podcast, Steve. Thanks, everybody, for checking out today's podcast. Tomorrow, we will continue looking at this Royal Series. Happy to see that the Reds won Game 1. That is now the 11th time this season that they've won Game 1 in a series. Hopefully they win Game 2 and finally get a series win in what feels like forever. Tim Daniel will have you covered on the postcast after the game, and then we will be in your feeds the next morning for the rest of this week, going through Saturday as we miss Monday for Memorial Day. Happy Memorial Day for everybody, because we are always covering the Cincinnati Reds every single day, all throughout the regular season, all throughout the postseason, all throughout the offseason. Why, Steve?
Because we are Locked On Reds every single day. I beat you to the Star Wars reference again.
Well, you know, sometimes just gats to let the people have fun.